Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Deputy Chiefs Paul Noel and Randy Mushat of the New Orleans Police Department. By any measure, the violence we experienced yesterday was extremely disappointing considering how great Mardi Gras was going. But I speak for the men and women of NOPD when I say that while we are disgusted and while we are outraged because of this senseless violence, especially at a parade, which is an event for families and children trying to have a good time, we are not discouraged and we will not be dismayed. We remain laser focused to our commitment to making people of New Orleans safe and to bringing violent criminals to justice. Yesterday afternoon, in two separate instances on the parade route, young men broke out into violence and physical altercations that evolved into gun violence. 3 people were shot in total, and 1 of them has died. In each instance, our officers and law enforcement partners were right there and were able to respond immediately to secure the scene and render aid to victims. We've developed suspects in both incidents. In the first shooting on the 700 block of Union Street, we have released a still image from video of the individual we believe to be the perpetrator. And so we ask anyone with information to contact 8th District Detectives at 658-6080 or at Crime Stoppers 822-1111. In the second shooting on the 2400 block of St. Charles Avenue, we've issued a warrant for the arrest of Eddie Dingle, who is now wanted for second-degree murder. We released his photo to the media this morning, and we ask anyone who believes they have information to contact our detectives or, again, Crime Stoppers at 822-1111. In a separate and equally concerning incident, gun violence in the lower 9th Ward last night led to the shooting of 5 victims, 2 of whom have died. We believe these homicides and several other recent outbreaks in violence in the 5th and 6th districts are linked to vicious gang activity perpetrated by suspects who are known to one another. In briefing the mayor, he has authorized and instructed me to use any and all resources to identify, investigate, and arrest any and all individuals responsible for this spike in shootings and murders, which we believe, again, are individuals who are connected to and who know one another. All of our resources, including the multi-agency gang unit, the street gang unit, the Tiger team, and each district's task force, are focused on targeting these individuals and groups responsible for the violence. We cannot allow yesterday's tragic events to define who we are or to obscure the progress we've made with the results of our office and the results our officers have achieved. Just listen to this. During Mardi Gras, we made 471 arrests. 53 of those arrests are individuals carrying illegal guns, and we seized 48 guns from the parade routes and French Quarter alone. Another 48 guns were confiscated from other parts of the city. So that's a total of 96 guns seized from around the city from the first day of Mardi Gras through last night. Year to date, our non-fatal shootings are down 44%. Armed robberies are down almost 50% compared to the same time last year. So this spike in homicide, including last night's incident on St. Claude, is tied almost entirely to subjects who know one another and who are tied to gang activity, which we are working so hard to confront. Our message to the people of New Orleans is this: we will not tolerate what happened with yesterday's violence to define us, to discourage us, to slow us down. In fact, it makes us pursue violent criminals with greater intensity. The men and women of the NOPD are working relentlessly every day to bring these criminals to justice, and we will pursue them relentlessly. In the days and weeks ahead, we will continue to update you on the progress that we're making to identify, investigate, and arrest these people, these violent criminals who are causing havoc to our community. Thank you. At this time, I'll take any questions you might have.
Chief, you talked about a spike in murders. Do you have the numbers? How many people have been killed in New Orleans since the beginning of the year? Do you know that number?
I can get that number to you. We've been working on that, always working on that, but I can get that number to you in just a minute.
But there's a spike in murders, but you say a decrease in
There's a decrease in the individual non-fatal shooting category where it's just a shooting and the person survived. And so while there's a spike in murders, the category that we report to the FBI in non-fatal shootings, there is a decrease in that. We're 44% down in that category.
Chief, how does the violence for this carnival season compare to ones in recent years past? In your opinion, and what effect did the measures that you discussed heading into the big carnival weekend have on?
Well, I think the measures were successful, and we've already received compliments from citizens around the city about street closures and our traffic plan and the security measures we put in place. I think this was a great Mardi Gras. The incident on St. Charles Avenue was a subject who was with his friends and other known acquaintances. For whatever reason, their engagement turned violent and then turned fatal. That could have happened anywhere because they were all there together. The incident on Union Street, we believe, were people who knew one another, which again could have happened anywhere. It's just so unfortunate that it happened where families are gathering and kids are there just to have a good time. I believe this, by and large, was a safe Mardi Gras, and our officers were out there confiscating guns because we sent out a strong message. Don't bring guns to parades. They don't mix. Don't bring guns to areas where you're drinking. It's a bad combination, and we put that message out constantly. And we ensured that our officers with our state and federal partners were out there enforcing that, and we did just that. And these incidents yesterday just, it's very unfortunate. We get angry behind it, but we're going to pursue these people relentlessly. And you saw last night, we had an arrest warrant for the subject at 2nd Street. We released a photo of the subject from Union Street, and we hope that anybody with any information will call us right away so that we can hold that person accountable as well.
Chief, does this sort of tarnish the shine somewhat at what was, in everybody's estimation, a picture postcard Mardi Gras day, beautiful weather, beautiful crowds, and then the shootings?
I think this remains on the shoulders of the people who decided to make those bad decisions to do harm. The men and women of NOPD and all of our first responders and law enforcement partners did an amazing job from the very beginning all the way to the very end. And we were actually right there when all this happened. There was one of our law enforcement partners who actually gave chase to the suspect at the St. Charles and 2nd Street shooting homicide, but lost him in the block. And so we were right there. The men and women of law enforcement did a marvelous and magnificent job with all of our partners in every agency within city government to pull off a really great Mardi Gras. And like I said, because they were there together and were known acquaintances, that really could have happened anywhere. And I just want to give the credit to the men and women who put Mardi Gras on, that they actually did a great job. And I don't think this necessarily is tied to Mardi Gras.
And
just
also
to confirm
though,
anything.
Chief, the headlines around the country were not beautiful Mardi Gras in New Orleans. It was 3 dead, 5 injured at Mardi Gras in New Orleans. So how does that play?
Well, I understand that. The men and women of law enforcement and all of our partners in city government and in other agencies, look, we did a lot to put on Mardi Gras, especially with the bad weather, and this is very unfortunate that happened. But we do everything we can to make sure that we can prevent these types of things by putting a robust security plan together. And that plan worked because when that happened, our officers were in pursuit of the suspect who committed that. Cameras caught the other suspect, and we're looking for his identity as well. And while it happened at a parade, the deployment was such that we were on it right away to render aid to victims and to secure that scene and process it. And so it could not have gone any better with the deployment strategy. But the decision to commit the bad act remains on the shoulders of the person who committed the bad act.
And in all the years of Mardi Gras, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't recall someone being shot and killed as parades were rolling on the route. Has that ever happened? And if so, when is the last time it has happened? Someone being shot and killed as parades are rolling in daylight?
Well, to my recollection, year before last, there was one right there on St. Charles, I believe, at the corner of Thalia, right by the Popeyes, in recent years. Again, police officers were right there. Again, we were able to take swift and immediate action. And so we put a very robust plan in place to prevent it, but the plan is also a plan to be able to apprehend people when they commit these kinds of acts. The fact that we were able to make so many gun arrests without incident, without injury, without use of force, with people bringing guns, even though we admonished them not to, is a tremendous credit to the men and women of NOPD and our partner agencies who were with us.
In regard to Eddie Dingle, the suspect from yesterday, I know when we spoke, obviously it was early in the investigation. What can you say about what led to him being named as a suspect, and what can you say about any prior record he has?
Well, I believe we had a very good description when we spoke yesterday. We had a law enforcement partner chase him. We had a very good description, and just working with a number of witnesses who were there, perhaps who actually knew him, because once again, these are people who knew one another. And I believe it led us to a very successful identification, and now he has a warrant for second-degree murder for his arrest.
Does he have any prior record that you're aware of, or what can you say about any sort of criminal past with him?
We can get that to you. I don't have that in front of me at the moment.
Marie? Paul?
Chief, we had some video that was sent in to us that showed an issue where the NOPD officers were having a tough time putting a bollard in the hole because it was full of Mardi Gras beads, and there were bystanders that helped erect the bollard. Did you have issues with that? And then when the tops came off, people were using the tops of the bollards as trash cans. So did you all have problems with those?
I don't know about that specific instance, Paul, but I can say this Mardi Gras, like many Mardi Gras, the citizens are just great. And when they see the officers trying to do something, you'll be surprised how often they will come and help us. And so that's always a great sign that relations have improved greatly between the police and the community, and it's just a great time. People really enjoy Mardi Gras, and it shows citizens and visitors will step up to help when necessary. And to the extent that we had problems with the bollards, you know, we would do anything and everything to make it work regardless of what it is.
So it's one of those things where you'll take it back and do your after action and see what worked and what
Absolutely.
needs some work.
We would do after actions on everything that happened, from the planning stage all the way through the deployment up until last night, to figure out what worked well, what didn't work as well, how to improve it for next year, anticipating what we could be dealing with the following year.
In regard to shootings on parade routes, isn't there a stiffer penalty now with guns along the
There is an ordinance about bringing a firearm to a parade route, which we enforce. And so we've made a number of arrests for that, and we want to make sure that in the criminal justice system, people are held accountable for committing that violation.
Anybody else? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.